See us in the group now. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Pro Power Hour. My name's Chris Weldon. I'm one of the community managers with Housecall Pro. And this is a series we do every single Thursday. We have a Zoom webinar, and we also go live in our Housecall Pros Facebook group right around 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern every week. You can kind of think of this as like a training session you can come to every week, an onboarding session you can come to every week. Every Thursday, we cover a different feature or a couple of different features inside Housecall Pro. We've covered a lot. We started this series back in May. We've covered a lot already. We have a new help article as well, so you can go back and watch all the recordings. We've covered things like voice. We've covered service plans. We've covered multi-option estimates. We've done so many different things. And so I encourage you to go back. I'll drop the link to that in both chats. And if you're joining us on Zoom or you're joining us on Facebook, let us know you're here. Tell us where you're tuning in from. The comment threads will be open for all of your questions, so we'll be taking those as we go and towards the end. And before we get into it, Phil, I want to just let you introduce yourself again, and then we'll start the slides and do the demo.
Sounds good. Hello, everybody again. I'm Phil Spingola. I am one of the onboarding specialists over here. If you've chatted in for a support call, or if you are on the Max or Max Plus plan, you have probably dealt with myself or one of my teammates to really show you how to make the system work with your business. And for those support calls, obviously, any troubleshooting issues that you all have, I've probably helped you at some point to get you going on the right path there. But yeah, today we've got job time tracking, which is there's a lot of different ways to kind of use this. We'll kind of talk about a little bit of everything that I've kind of experienced in using time tracking. I think it's one of the better features we have. Same thing with the estimate and feature fields that are always on the side of every estimate and every invoice, every job. I get questions all the time of how to best utilize these, and I am happy to show you and teach you kind of the ways of how to use that so that it can help you with your business moving forward. So as usual, we'll start with a slide deck, just kind of go over a little bit of an overview of what we're going to talk about, and then I'll go ahead and pull up my account. We'll do a little demo and see how all of this pertains in real life examples. So let's go ahead and dive into it. All right. There we go. Okay, can you all see my screen? Good. All right, cool. So again, going over time tracking, job and estimate feature fields, and we'll just kind of dive right in with the time tracking overview. So with our time tracking, I always tell everybody that I've worked with is we have two different types of time tracking. We have one that I specifically coach people into. The best way is if your business is doing time cards, you are actually having people come in, and we all remember in the old days, sticking that piece of paper into the little clock and having it punch in. That is one particular feature that we have. And another one that we have is actually for per jobs. So I have dealt with a lot of companies that really don't have their field technicians punch in and punch out for the day. They really just get paid for their hours per job per day. So we'll take a look at both ends of that. So just kind of pointing out here within the key features is clocking in and clocking out. For this one, it's this particular example, we are talking about clocking in and clocking out for the entire day. So once it's enabled, employees can clock in and out from the Housecall Pro mobile app. And it's very simple. I will show you all in our demo, but once you log into the mobile app, it is right there front and center. It says tap to clock in. The second you tap it, it goes green and lets you know that you've clocked in for the day. Now, as I reviewed some of our questions, one of the most common ones is how do we view this? I will show it within my demo a little bit later, but we can go to our apps. There is a specific app called Timesheet, and that is where we can find all the data that is involved with this particular clocking in and clocking out feature. Again, this is for the entire day. Then we also have a little bit of another time tracking, which, as I mentioned, is for per job. So that is involving the time tracking of travel as well as time on the job. So this way, employees can track travel time by tapping the On My Way button and the job time by hitting start on the job. We'll talk a little bit about the pause button that becomes enabled and when they hit the finish button. Speaking of pausing the job, that's a little bit for advanced time tracking, as we will go over a little bit later as well. I always tell everybody is on every job, the start button does become a pause button in the mobile app. And the idea there is so that our technicians can always hit the pause button if they need to go get materials or go take lunch, whatever the case may be. But we will see as we go through the demo is that anytime a job is paused or started up again, a technician is prompted to leave a note. So when they leave those notes, we'll be able to review on the back end all those reasons why they paused the job or why they had to restart the job. Again, we will see that a little later. And then last part is just finishing a job. So when a job is completed, that will go ahead and stop the timer that is going on for that particular job so that we can go ahead and see that total range of how long it took from start to finish on a particular job. So setting up time tracking, for what I've experienced mostly is it should already be enabled for just about everybody, but if it isn't, you just can simply go to the apps. There is the time tracking option within the app store, and it's one of ours, so it doesn't really cost you anything. You just go on in there and turn it on, and it will be enabled for your company. Enabling the time tracking features, there is the total clocked in time and out time for the timesheets, which is the one half of the time tracking that I mentioned earlier. And then the other one is the travel and time on jobs. Viewing and managing the time. So there is view time tracking history. So if we are talking in regards to job times, for that, there is a specific report on which we can pull. It is, forget off the top of my head, but I believe it's called time tracking per job. That is a report that is already pre-built for you all, and all you simply need to do is click on it, modify it to your liking, and you'll be able to have that report to see all of your employees and all of their hours on jobs. Now, for time cards, as I mentioned earlier, it is in your app section. There is a particular app called Timesheet. Once you open it up, that is where you can view and you can edit any of the clocking in and clocking out for the day. With both of these the report as well as the timesheet, if anybody needs it or you need to pass it on to your CPA or payroll, whatever the case may be, you can always export these timesheets into a CSV file, print them, and give them to whoever you need to. So moving on to the second half of what we're going to be talking about today is also the job and estimate feature fields. So I'm sure everyone has seen these. If you've been mostly in the web portal, they're usually on the left side of your screen when you're looking at a job or an estimate. If you are a field technician and you are looking at the mobile app, usually these options are somewhere kind of at the lower end of your job or estimate. We're going to go ahead and go through each one of these and talk a little bit about what they do. Now, in a previous life, I was working on a particular project where reporting was huge. And so I've always thought that when it comes to businesses, it's always good to have your reporting in order. And I can't stress enough how important all of these little fields are. So first, we'll talk about job fields. And again, we'll see these in real time, but within job fields, that is where we can label like a job type, business unit, if this job is going to be a callback. And for those, we'll go in a little bit in depth as we go through the demo about what each of those mean. There is an option for a lead source, where we can go ahead and mark where this customer specifically reached out to us for this particular project. On our last session, we talked a little bit about customer profiles and how that there is a lead source option there. And I explained within that session is that each particular job and estimate is still going to have that lead source field for you, but it will always be blank because the idea there is, again, maybe this time my customer called me on my Facebook line and not my main business line, so that way I can start setting up a report to see how my marketing leads are doing for me. Customer tags, what I usually label them as is kind of like one word, keyword, filter words that apply to the particular customer. And here we call them internal identifiers used for targeting communication, email campaigns, and review exclusions. So there is a little bit more to it, but from what I've gathered, most of the day-to-day kind of stuff is kind of examples that I've seen people use is like VIP, new customer, friends and family, first responders, things like that, because we can see those particular tags and on our jobs and our estimates. And that way, if we do offer a little bit of a discount for those kinds of people, our technician can see that and apply it. And also on the back end is if we need to pull any reports, I always use the new customer as an example, is if we want to pull a report to see how many new customers we got this month, as long as we are applying a new customer tag to each new customer we get, you can then pull that report. Job tags are kind of the same thing, but used a little bit differently. Now, these are tags that relate to the particular job. In estimates, they're also estimate tags. So really, they're used to categorize and filter jobs for easy searching and reporting. I usually tell people common ones I see are like waiting on parts or permit required, waiting on materials, things like that, so that we can, again, pull a report of all these particular phases that these jobs are in, so we can figure out what an example would be is, waiting on which jobs we're still waiting on parts for. Private notes. Private notes are not customer facing. I usually tell people this is a great place to put in any information that regards like if you want your technician to put in some information about what they did, but don't want to share it with the customer. Private notes is a great place to do that because we can always call back on that job, review the notes of what that technician did on that particular job. Another thing I find it really useful for is if you're going to say like, don't park in the driveway, keys under the mat, gate codes, things like that. Because again, we can add and remove these and we can view these from the office as well as the field. Attachments, pretty straightforward, as I tell with everybody. Really, you can upload any files or photos from your computer to a job or an estimate. And on the mobile app, it actually says photos and attachments on jobs and estimates for this particular field, so that when our technicians go ahead and click on it, it will open up the camera on their mobile device. And then that way they can just take before and after pictures and upload them directly to the estimate or the job. Estimate fields, pretty much the same thing as job fields, except it relates to estimates. So really any estimate details that help you go ahead and keep these particular estimates in a particular order that you like to keep them in for your reporting. So we're going to go ahead and demo. Before I do, Chris, any questions that came up during the slide deck?
It looks like we got a couple of questions. I just want to answer those. Yeah, Justin, I see you were asking about getting a copy of this. This will live in our help article afterwards, and will be on YouTube, so you'll be able to access it. And then Derek asked, is there a way to schedule and track vacation, sick time and overtime for employees?
So I know for overtime, we do have a way of being able to track this. I will show you that in just a moment when we look at the timesheet. Sick time and vacation time, I personally haven't seen a great way of tracking this. So I think it's something that we should be able to go ahead and push up to product. But at this time, I personally haven't found a way. I do see that someone says maybe private notes, but in terms of tracking the actual sick time and vacation time, there really isn't a really good answer for that at this time.
Yeah, I would lean on your payroll provider. I know our payroll solution, I can't confirm 100% if we offer all of that, but if we don't, it's coming soon. We did do a session on payroll a couple weeks ago, so I encourage you to check that out.
Cool. So yes, for the question, does Housecall send up follow-up reminders for scheduled estimates? So it depends. I'm going to say that the answer is yes. It really kind of depends what features you have. I don't want to dive too far into reminders because that's something I believe we've talked about or we will talk about at a later time. But you can have within your pipeline for any estimate that has not been scheduled, you can have Housecall Pro automatically reach out 3 times to your customer with a text message and an email, prompting them to reach out to you to go ahead and get that estimate scheduled.
Yeah.
is there a way an employee can edit their timesheet? So an employee, I believe that the answer is no for a technician, but on the back end for us in the office, we do have the ability to make any updates and changes. I'm going to demo that in just a moment here.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and dive into it. And so I have my account open over here. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the time cards, clocking in and clocking out for the day. So actually, before we dive into the back end, let me just make sure that everybody is on the same page when we are looking at the mobile app. Okay, so here is my mobile app. And as you can see, I've already clocked in for this particular person. I'll go ahead and clock out there. But as you can see right there at the top, it says clocked out and tap to clock in. As I've always said with every person I've trained, it's not rocket science here. Really, every technician should be able, as long as they can log into their mobile app, be able to simply tap the button to go ahead and clock right in. As we can all see to the right of it, that is where our technicians can be able to view their hours on time cards for the week. So now let's go back over to the back end. All right, so for us in the office, and we want to be able to track that information of our employees clocking in and clocking out for the day, we are going to want to go all the way up to our apps, as I mentioned earlier. And there's going to be the option for timesheet. So when we go in, as we can see, here's all of my employees. I can set up my range of whether I want to look at clock in times for a week, 2 weeks, a month, a year, or go ahead and set up a custom date range. Now, as people start clocking in and clocking out, that's where these coordinates will start to populate. As we can see, my one employee here that we just clocked in. So I can see that within their first clock in for today, they clocked in for 24 minutes. Now, us in the office, we do have the ability to go ahead and click on any particular coordinate. One thing that a lot of people that I show this to absolutely love is it shows a GPS location of where that person clocked in from. So that way we can kind of see if they're doing this from their couch or if they're doing it out there in the field. And as one of the questions brought up underneath here is where we can go ahead and make any changes. There is also somebody mentioned about overtime. So over here where it says type and regular hours, if I go ahead and click on that, I can go ahead and mark it as overtime or double overtime. Down below here, we can see pretty much all of that information that comes out. So we have here our regular hours, our overtime, our double overtime. We can view all of that right here and the total hours for the week. Now, a common question I get is that how do we make this roll over to payroll? For that, within Housecall, you would want to, again, check out our payroll session so you can get some more information on that. But for the people who don't have it, I always tell everyone is that we can give you all the information you need to do your payroll. But if you have an outside or third-party software that does it or somebody else handles it, really, you have the ability to download and export the timesheet here to pass it on to whoever you need to next. So then going into a job, I do see a lot of questions coming up. I'll get to the questions towards the end here. So if we're going to go into a job, and let's go ahead and put in our customer. We'll mark this one for today. All right. So I'll start on the back end and then we'll move back over to the mobile app. But here are the buttons at the top that are triggered from the mobile app. I'm sure everybody is somewhat familiar with this. When we hit on my way, that is going to start the clock down here. And that clock is going to keep going until they hit the start button. And once they hit the start button, that's going to start the clock over here. And as I mentioned in the mobile app, that start button will become a pause button. The only other time that that clock is going to stop is when they hit finish, and that will give us our accurate timing of their time on the particular job. Now, to go along with one of the questions I saw that came up here is, can we modify these particular times? The answer is yes. I always point everybody to, if we come down to that specific technician's name down here in the field tech status, you'll notice that the little area goes gray. And if I click on it, that is where I can view all of the information as well as all of the notes. In the upper right-hand corner, there is the edit button. So if somebody says, you know what, I forgot to hit on my way, it took me 25 minutes to get there and I was there for 3 hours. We can go in on the back end, go ahead and put in 25 minutes and you were there for 3 hours. So that's how we can do it on the back end. Now let me go back over to how it's going to look on the mobile app for the technicians. Okay, so for the technicians, here is a particular job. Let's maybe see if we can go back. Here's the one that we are working on today. So there is the on my way button. So again, not the most difficult thing to do. We'll go ahead and click on my way, and that will go ahead and start the timer right there. So technician can see this, and when we go back in, we can go ahead and take a look on the back end. Now, to point out, let's go ahead and hit start time. As I mentioned, every time they hit start or pause, they are prompted to leave a note. So we'll go ahead and say starting work today. Now, as I mentioned, that start button has now become a pause button. So at any point, it can go ahead and hit pause. And we give you a couple of options. But let me bring up a couple of things here. So completed my work. I always get questions about this all the time. Do not hit completed my work unless you are completely done with the job. I get the question of how do we handle jobs that take multiple days? What I typically recommend that you do for jobs that take multiple days is to maybe use other. Use that other option, and they can go ahead and put in the note finished work day 1. Because again, as I said, if we go ahead and say completed my work, that is going to tell Housecall that the job is completely finished and is actually going to close out the job. All right. And so then the next day that they show up, they can go ahead and hit start, and it'll just continue to pick up where they left off. The other option outside of hitting that pause to finish the job is to simply hit that big blue button right in the middle there that says finish the job, and that will go ahead and close it up as well. All right, so let me just scoot back over here towards the back end because we did go ahead and make some changes to that particular job. So as we can see here, now that I'm looking at those details, this is how it's going to look. I can see that the time that they hit on my way, the time when they hit time started, there's the note right there that they left when they started the job. And when they paused the job, there's the note right there that tells me why they paused the job. All right, so I think that covers the time tracking. Let me go ahead and start answering some of these questions. Let's see, is there a way for an employee to edit their, we already talked about that. Do customers get notified if a job is placed as materials received in the pipeline? So there is no automatic trigger for customers to get notified if a job is placed in materials received. I think that's probably either a custom column that you may have created, or if it's one that we provide. I know that there is no trigger for that particular column. Can GPS be set for the employee to not have the option to turn it off when punched in? So I'm guessing that means like the employee doesn't want us to know where their location is when they go to clock in and clock out. Really, they can do that if they go into their phone settings and enable for just about every app out there, it'll ask like to enable location settings. So they could technically turn that off, but I mean, that's something that's kind of a business by business decision. So an employee is entering RT and OT. I'm assuming that is entering regular time and overtime. So for the technicians, while they're out in the field, they don't really have the ability to make the changes of what is considered overtime and what is considered regular time. That is something that you can do on the back end, which I kind of showed right there. So that needs to be done by office staff or administrators. Since employees have location services turned on, is there a geofencing option that will prompt the employee to use the features more accurately? Ask if they're traveling, prompt them when they arrived. Um, so I'm guessing that's like you're kind of asking whether as they get closer, do these notifications go out, and from a distance, do they not? The answer is really no. As whenever those buttons are triggered, those text messages go out. Will it auto switch to OT after 40 hours or a manual change? That is a very good question. I do get that a lot. I did kind of mention this a little bit earlier. It does not. So once you do go over 40 hours, you do in the office need to go back in here and let's say they worked 48 hours that week. You do need to log that those extra 8 hours are overtime. What if a job has more than one tech on a job? So as long as that technician is assigned to the job, let's say there are 3 technicians assigned. Here, we can even use an example with this particular job here. Let's go ahead and we'll add myself and one more person. So actually, every single person, every single technician has to hit start and stop when they are at the job and when they are clocking in and clocking out for the day. It's not set up so that one person applies it to everybody. Otherwise, our time tracking will be all screwed up on the back end because then, I could say, I sat at home for an hour while Luke Skywalker was out there working all day. So it is on everybody to go ahead and make sure that each single person is clocking in for a job or for the day. Where can I view the total time spent on a multi-segment job? Is there a report? So with segments, each segment is going to have its own time. We don't really have a way to collect it all together and put it into, say, like, you have one job, it takes a whole week, you have 3 specific segments within it. Each segment is going to have its own time. And when we go ahead and pull up the reporting, it's going to reflect each particular segment, not the total time. Do the client see real time where you are when you are on the way? So for the client, the answer is no. And yeah, I know we can within the office. Chris, can you confirm that? I don't think the customer can.
The customer can't see your location in real time unless you adopt our GPS tracking that's partnered with Force. And then if you move forward with that, when a technician clicks on the way, you have GPS tracking set up, then the location would be shared with the customer via text.
That's what I was going to say is I don't know if we've talked about GPS tracking yet, but when I talk to people about it, there's really 2 kind of tiers. The basic tier that everybody has is really just as buttons are triggered out in the field, we in the office can see the little head or icon of our employee be moved around on the map from where they hit all of those buttons from. If you want more of like that Uber experience of and the customer can also, as Chris mentioned, see the truck driver en route, you will need that next tier up for the add-on for the Mojo Force. How do you pick back up a paused job for another day? As I mentioned, you just go ahead, open up that job, hit start on that day. They are prompted to leave a note. They can go ahead and say started work day 2. When you return to the job the next day, do you push on my way again? You can certainly do so. What you might want to do is you might want to set up appointments because each appointment has its own on my way. And so it will track the time traveled that way if you are doing appointments. But if it's just, if you're going to be doing segments, which again, I don't really like talking about segments as we've moved a little bit more over towards appointments. But back in the day, I used to say, if you do want to keep track of those time tracking hours, segments used to be the way we do it. Now you would want to be using appointments. Is there a way to establish text messaging communications with a new customer before estimate or job is created? Yes, so you can put a customer into the system, and within your inbox, you can go ahead and send them any text message that you want. And if you have any of the automation set up, those text messages will go out to the customer. So you do not need to set up an estimate or a job or have one created in order to text a customer. Is the bug fixed regarding total time on job each day hours being added to the total? As far as I know, it's still every time that we are hitting start and stop or pause and start again, it is still giving us the full time and not a breakdown of day by day. With Force, we have to sign up into that on a separate site. The answer is no. You can go through it through the apps, the app store that we have, and I believe it's towards the top, right up here, vehicle GPS tracking. So you can go right into view details, and there it is, add vehicle trackers or learn more about it. All right. So I think that covers all of time tracking. I do have a couple of questions here. I guess I'll just kind of go through these that were given to us beforehand. Some of these we've already answered. So is there a functionality to clock in and clock out? Yes, we did. We went over that as well. Turning on time tracking. We did it in the slide deck, but I'll show you all here on the website. Is if we go to our settings, and there's going to be an option for time tracking right here. And you just simply go ahead and turn them on. How can I access my employees' clocked in and clocked out hours? I showed you all. That is within our apps, and that is going to be under timesheet. When I save the report of log times, where does the report end up? So if you're talking about reporting, and we're talking about jobs. So job time tracking by employee, overall time tracking. If you make any modifications to either of these reports, and you save it, those reports are going to be saved to your custom reports so that way you can always access them without modifying them anymore. And then you can access them at any time. You do not need to export it, but you do have the ability to export any report. When our technicians are showing on my way, start to finish for each job, is there a way for accumulated time or day for the week? So again, if it's one job that's over a week, we give you the total time, not what happened on each particular day. So I think that answers your question as yes, we do. And in terms of for the reporting, same idea. As long as they're hitting start and stop, you can pull the report. Is there a way to do auto time tracking with location tracking? I don't really believe that we have an auto time tracking. It needs to be triggered by either by the employee for their time card as well as a job. With location tracking, that is something you're going to want to look at with that Mojo by Force, because again, that's an actual device that goes into the truck and gives you like the full Uber experience. Is there a way to pause a job or pause time tracking on a job? I went over this. Yes, when we hit start on a job, it does become a pause button in the mobile app. So a technician can pause the job at any time, leave a note for a reason why they paused it. Is there a way to see if an employee clocked in for the day? That is within the timesheet. And as I mentioned, it does have that GPS location, so you can be able to take a look at that as well. how can guys confirm they clock in on a job? Getting the app didn't clock me in responses from my guys. Andrew, that might be a conversation you might want to have with your guys. I think I kind of showed here on our session today. It's pretty foolproof. They really just need to open up the app. It says right there to go ahead, tap to clock in. The box goes green to let them know that they have clocked in for the day. And we took a look at the job. Once they hit start on the job, they are prompted to leave a note. So if that's not happening, that might be a bigger technical issue that you may then want to reach out to our technical support team about. When an employee clicks on my way, does it automatically clock them in on the timesheet? So I think there is a way that's kind of a question for one feature, but you're asking it for two. So when they click on my way, that is really strictly for jobs. The timesheet, that is for, again, clocking in and clocking out for the day. So when they click on my way and you want to see that information, again, refer to the job that we were just looking at, that little field that shows the field tech. Let's go back to it. What's it called? Field tech status, where you can go ahead and click in here and you can see that the times for when they hit on my way. Is there a way to edit clock in hours from the app? Unfortunately, no, it has to be done from the computer. Is there a way to clock in using the computer and not the app? So yes and no. There is no particular button that you hit to go ahead and clock in. So I have trained people in the past of like, if you are office staff and you do have a time card, really what you would want to do is you would want to go to that particular timesheet and you could just go ahead and manually put in. So for example, my regional manager here comes into the office every day. They can go in here, click time entry and put in their times for the day. And when we have a job that remains open, the text time spent on a job is not included in the timesheet report until we mark it finished. But we need to pay them for that time when the work is done. If we have a job that remains open. Okay, I understand the question. So if it remains open, you should still be able to look at that job information. Because as I've said before, and I've trained people in the past, is that if we even have a job that's unfinished, we should still be able to get this information in here as long as they are hitting start and pause on the job. Because I've seen this happen as, again, with that example of a job that takes multiple days. And so as long as they do not hit finish, we still should be gathering the data for travel time as well as total time on the job. If that is not working for you, again, that is something you probably might want to reach out to our technical support team. And to wrap up time tracking, I see two more that came in. Is there a way to edit the timestamps start, stop for employees on appointments? If I recall, the answer is yes. Let's go ahead and just demo it just to make sure. Want to make sure that we have appointments on. All right, let's go back to our job. Okay, so then it can send the on my way. So for each appointment, that's actually, all right, now I remember, it's going to fall right into the field tech status. So every time that that they are hitting for the appointments, we should then be able to go on in here and go ahead and pull up when they hit on my way. So what was it, 3:43? Let's go ahead and let's double check here. Okay. That's just the on my way. Let's try it from the mobile app. So we're gonna add an appointment. Let's add it for a little bit later under Luke. All right, so now if we go to schedule, there's the second appointment. I'm gonna go ahead and hit start. Okay, and what I noticed here within the mobile app is that it continues the time ticker. So very similar to how I was training people when they are hitting stop, or I'm sorry, hitting pause when they finish a job. So you want to continue that work method. Is when they are done for the day, you want to go ahead and hit pause. So and say, done with appointment 1. And then that way, when they go in to hit it on the next day for the next appointment, it's going to continue to start clicking at where they left off from the previous day. And we can see right there, time started 3:44, which is when I just did it. So for any edits, again, we can only make edits to the overall time, not individually for each status. Please show how text messaging new customers before. Okay, Marina, that we can go in depth on that a little bit later, but I will just quickly show you the quick method is it's up here in the inbox. I do not have text messaging available on this particular account, and just for sake of time, I know that we were planning on doing text messaging today, so that is something we will revisit. I would recommend showing up for that particular session. But within inbox, as long as you have your registered text messaging number, you can shoot messages to your customers and your employees from the inbox. How do techs add extra time to their hours worked for cleaning shop, etc.? So you're talking about like shop time and things like that, I'm assuming. What I tell people is if that is something that you want to track, honestly, the best way to do it is to create a job and just put in as the first line item, shop time, no cost, because I had some people do it in terms of events, but we can't really track time on events. So if you do want to track the time for, let's call it shop time, cleaning shop, whatever it is, do it as a job. All right. So moving away from the time tracking, let's go back to job and estimate fields. So we're going to go to the job that we were just looking at. And that's all of this information here on the left side. Now, checklists we went over on a previous session. So if you have any questions or need more information on that, please review our earlier session on checklists. Job fields right here. This is one of them that we were talking about. So when we go ahead and click on job fields, there's job type. Now, the way I explain job type to people is kind of like this, is think of a filing cabinet, and job type is going to be the name of that filing cabinet. So as you can see here, I have my examples are install, repair, residential, commercial. So if I'm going to say this is an install job, it's going into my install filing cabinet. Business unit, the way I explain this is that the original idea is for big companies that have multiple divisions within their company, like a plumbing unit, a HVAC unit, electrical unit. That way we can say, hey, this job, our electrical team is going on out there. Now, for smaller companies, what I typically say this is good for is, let's say you have the same 2 people that go in the same truck every day. We can go ahead and say, as I have here, truck 1, truck 2, truck 3. It doesn't assign the job to them, but it basically labels it so that we can pull a report so that we can see all the work of truck 1 versus all the work of truck 2. Callback, I've seen this used many different ways, but again, this is all really for your reporting. Some people have different definitions for what a callback is. In my opinion, I think of it as like, hey, we showed up at the location and nobody was home, so we couldn't get in and do any work. So we're going to go ahead and label it as a callback. That way I can then pull a report of all of my jobs that are callbacks. And then that way I can reach out to go down that list, reach out to those customers and say, hey, when can we get scheduled to come on out there again? Customer tags, as you can see right here, I have a couple applied to this customer, and as I mentioned, we are able to see this in the mobile app as well as in the web portal. For this customer, I have them labeled as a new customer or a VIP, so that way, as I'm working with them, I can understand that they are a new customer. So if I want to pull that report of all my new customers for the month, I can go ahead and pull a report based on that. Or if anybody saw our marketing session a couple of weeks ago, I had a specific marketing campaign targeted towards my VIP customers. So they're my special customers. I want to make sure that they are getting all of the best marketing information that I have. And also, if I want to give them a little bit of a discount, I can. Job tags, same idea as I mentioned earlier in the slide deck, but maybe your job is in multiple phases. So I'll say that this job is in phase 1. And once we've finished phase 1, I can go ahead and remove that job tag and say that this job is now moved on to phase 2. Another great place for waiting on parts. So if you don't have the pipeline, waiting on parts in your job tags is a great place so you can pull a report to see all those jobs that you're waiting on parts. Private notes, as I mentioned, is a great place to go ahead and put any information that you might want to keep in between the field tech and the office. And also, if you want to leave, like, let's say, gate code, key under the mat, anything like that, we can always make edits to a private note, and we can always add as many private notes as we need. And again, these will be visible on both the mobile app as well as the web portal. Attachments, as I mentioned, pretty straightforward. If we go ahead and click on it, that will go ahead and allow us to upload any photos or attachments from our computer. In the mobile app, as I mentioned, it will open the camera on their mobile device. They can take pictures and upload them directly to the job or the estimate. Auto invoicing is, if you were on our last session when we talked about customer profile, that's where this is pulling from. Not every job is going to have auto invoicing on it. It comes over from the customer profile. Again, if you want more information about that, I would recommend checking out that particular session, but really just we can see in this section that this customer is set up for auto invoicing. Lead source, as we discussed earlier, just so we can go ahead and mark where this customer heard about us, or maybe they called in on a specific lead source. So we want to go ahead and track so we can see how our lead sources are doing for us. And another thing that's not always visible, this does need to be turned on, is for property profile. So if it does matter to you on tracking on-site equipment or any installations that you do, you can go ahead and add a property profile item. I believe we did cover this on our last session as well, talking about the property profile. So there is a session available to you all where you can get more of an in-depth analysis on how to use the property profile. But that's really everything on the side in regards to all of those fields. Let's field a couple of questions here. Maybe next time you can answer this. If I have 2 employees in a truck, how can they both see the same job? Okay, so Angela, for that, really, they just both need to be assigned to it. One, you can have, as many technicians assigned to a job. They can open it up on their mobile app and they will be able to see that they are assigned to that job. And actually, anytime you assign a employee to a job, they do get a notification from Housecall saying that a job has been scheduled to you. Can you add a callback from the app on your phone? I actually believe that the answer is no, but let me double check that. And that is confirmed. You cannot do that from the mobile app. Install dates, warranty on property profile, please. So again, so for Angela, again, we did another session on this, and we are getting pretty close on time, so I don't really want to dive too much into it. But for install dates, that is all here within the property profile. You can go ahead and put in what you installed, the make, the model, the serial number, and you can put in an install date, keep a running log of notes of any time you've gone out to work on this particular piece of equipment. Can I unify? Oh, okay. That's interesting. That's interesting, Tiffany. I just did it. Maybe it's just for my particular job here. Oh, yeah, that's interesting. Yep. It does say that you can. My apologies, everybody. Job fields, there is a callback section. Can I unify jobs from a customer that was created with different names? Um, once created with the company name and the other time is with their personal name. Okay, so really you're talking about merging customers. So for that, the answer is yes. You can just go up to your customers and you can select what of those customers are. So as you said, company and individual, we select the two that we need. And if we go over here to bulk actions, we can then merge the customers. And so that will bring the data from both accounts, merge it into one, and moving forward, they will just be the one customer. And looks like Michelle wants a link for tags and checklists. I'm sure Chris will be able to send that off to you. But other than that, I think that's everything that I have for you all. Any other questions from outside of the chat or anything come up?
I'm checking Facebook right now. If you're watching the Facebook Live, last call, if you have any questions, drop them in. Jason Julian, really good to see you. And then I think we had a couple in the Q&A here on Zoom from anonymous attendee. So when we turn the estimate into a job, we will be able to bill them via progress payment, and these invoices will be pushed into QuickBooks. Um, Oh, you're following up on the question I asked you. Okay, I'm gonna get right back to you about that. Phil, we did get another question from Amanda. Are you able to add notes for Office View only?
The answer is no. I can't, as I'm thinking about it, I can't think of any way for Office only.
And anonymous, about your QuickBooks question, that is correct. When you turn the estimate into a job, you complete the job, then it'll push over to QuickBooks. I encourage you, if you follow that link that I posted in the chat, that goes to our recordings of all the power hours. It'll actually take you to our main help center. And if you can search QuickBooks on there, you'll find all the QuickBooks articles and how the integration works. We'll likely cover that at some point as well.
Question that just came in, customers cannot see the private notes. So Paul, I noticed you've asked a couple of questions about API. What I would really recommend is we don't know, my team doesn't normally coach API just because the world is so expansive with API and Housecall is an open API software. What I would recommend is I do have the information for our API team and they would be able to answer just about any questions regarding API. Give me 1 second to pull up that email address.
I just put it in.
Okay, good.
And yeah, Philip, good question. Yeah, all of these are on our YouTube channel. So if you follow, you can either go to YouTube, you can search Pro Power Hour or Housecall Pro, you'll find it there. Or you can follow the link to the help article, and I'll give you the recordings as well. All right.
Alex, I see you keep asking about the pipeline. Unfortunately, that wasn't on our docket for today, but we will take note of that and we will do a separate session specifically on the pipeline.
Yeah, all of those coming soon. Y'all do me a favor while I wrap up here for a few minutes. What other topics do you want us to cover? I'll let you know if we've already covered them, but drop them in the chat. If there's other areas of Housecall Pro you want to get training on, just drop the feature, whatever it might be, so we get your feedback. And then, like I said, I'm going to start an email chain with all of you, so you'll be aware of what all the upcoming sessions are.
And I'll just quickly answer Tiffany's. Where do you find the report for callbacks? So that is a good question. There isn't like a pre-built report for callbacks. You kind of have to build it yourself. And to do that, you just go into any report and you're going to want to hit filter. And there is an option for callbacks. Tracking flat rate pay.
phone answering and scheduling. Yep, yep.
For building estimates. So as of right now, there really isn't any time tracking in the estimate side. But I believe that that's kind of in the works. Time tracking, flat rate pay. So that kind of goes into job costing, which I believe we did a session on already. If not, we can certainly go over that maybe on a later session, or maybe you might want to reach out for everybody. If you don't want to wait on our particular sessions, you can always go to the blue chat bubble and you can always request a coaching call, and that will get you booked with myself or one of my teammates. If you are on the Max or Max Plus plan, actually at the bottom of the blue chat bubble, it should already have a schedule coaching button. So anything that we didn't cover today, if you want some more training and not have to wait till we go ahead and host a whole session on it, that would be my best bet for you.
All right, y'all. I'm gonna hold any other questions, but again, if there's any topics you want us to cover, drop them in the chat. I want to encourage you all to come next week and the following week. Next week, we're going to be doing a mobile app tour for your technicians. So if you have new technicians, or maybe your technicians are struggling to learn the app in and out, we're doing a full like onboarding session for like a new employee. So new employee, old employee needs a refresher, it doesn't matter. That's going to happen right here at the same time at 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. There is a different registration link, so just make sure you get that. You can ask in the blue chat bubble and they'll give that to you, or you can look for it in the Facebook group if you're with us there. And then the following week, we'll be doing basically the same thing, but with our office staff. So we'll do a web version, give you a full tour of the product, and give any new office staff either a refresher or a total new onboarding. So I encourage you and your team to get signed up. Yeah, these videos are uploaded to YouTube. Usually within 24 hours, it'll be in the help article and it'll be up on our YouTube channel. And like I mentioned, since there's so many of you attending now, which is awesome, I'm going to start an email chain, so you'll get an email recap of what we covered every week with the sessions upcoming. So I'll be sending that out as well. If you have any other questions, head to the blue chat bubble or find me in the Facebook group. Phil, thank you so much. Really appreciate all your time today. And we'll see everyone next week.
All right. See ya.
Take care, guys.